Hey there, welcome to another Slightly Redneck video. This is the second part of our seed starting crash course that I'm doing a collaboration with JoAnn Todd from the Joplin Seed and Plant Exchange and from Sowing Seeds Rare and Unusual. We're back at her house today. We're going to take a look at the seeds that she planted in our last video, and we're going to talk to you about what steps to take next. Before we do that though, I want to show you her seed starting setup because there are a couple of things here that might help you out if you're having problems getting seeds started. So let's get right on that and take a look at what she's got set up.
Hi, thanks for coming back on our second part of this, of us giving you some ideas on the seed starting. The first one, Chris and I talked about how you can do it inexpensive, and I want to tell you a few little tricks more on that. If you have problems getting your seeds to germinate, they may need a little bit of heat on the bottom of the flat, or they might be in a little bit colder room than normal. You can buy a mat from Amazon or Walmart, different places online. One that will fit this size tray. They're a black mat. They're about $30. They're pretty expensive. Some people have talked about using a heating pad. Well, the heating pads this day and age, they go off after 2 hours, so they're not a lot of help.
This is JoAnn's heat mat that she's built here. This is pretty nice. It's a very big, like she said, it's a 4x8 sheet of plywood with furring strips on it, and you've got these incandescent rope lights that run along there, and then your seed trays just sit on top of that. When you turn those on, that's going to warm the bottom of your tray up and speed up your germination. So if you're not getting good results, if you're having a hard time getting your seeds to germinate and to sprout like this, add some heat to the bottom of the trays, and that will help them to germinate a little bit quicker.
But you can see the little bitty plant right here. Whenever you see this under your humidity dome, the clear dome, take your dome off, because that is to keep in moisture and a little bit of heat. The majority of them have broke through, even though they don't look big yet and healthy, but they've broke through. So take that humidity dome off, get rid of it, just stick it underneath if you want. Then you can back up a little bit up on your watering. You don't need them quite as wet. Keep them under lights though, so they'll get the light on top of them. If you used the warming lights on the bottom, you can turn those off because it's gotten your soil where it was warm enough to get your seeds to sprout, and then you don't need to be having that on, just your lights on the top of them.
Look at these, because one thing I want to point out that I think a lot of people miss out on is you can see not all these seeds have sprouted yet. There's just a few. You've got one there and one there, but like the rest of them in this row haven't sprouted. There's quite a few of them through here that haven't sprouted. But to JoAnn's point, once they start to sprout and you get the first one to start to sprout, remove that humidity dome off of there. Your focus kind of shifts a little bit at this point. When we're trying to start the seeds, we're focused on keeping them warm and keeping them wet. Once they've sprouted and start to grow a little bit, we need to back off the watering a little bit. Let them dry out just a little bit before you water again. All right, now as far as what kind of lights to use, this is JoAnn's light setup here, and she's got a pretty elaborate one because she does quite a few seeds and quite a few plants that we get started here. But you can see these are just regular shop lights. I don't know what brand they are specifically. The ones that I use, I buy the regular old shop lights, about a $10 a fixture, light, yes. Plain old shop lights. And then you want the lights pretty close. You can see how close they are to these plants right here. There's just a little bit of a gap, pretty close as you can to the plants. But you don't need any kind of necessarily special light bulbs as long as you're just going to be growing these seeds out for a little while to get them to ready to transplant.
Chris said they're just plain old shop lights. I believe I bought them at one of the hardware stores like Lowe's or Home Depot. They're the 4-foot. I took the bulbs out, and now up until this year I used a hot bulb and a cold bulb. And this year the man who ran the electrical department, he told me there was a new bulb that emulated daylight, and they had had real good results with it. They were about the same price as if you bought a hot and a cold bulb and put in, so I tried them. Absolutely love them. They have done a great job.
As far as if you don't know what she means by hot and cold light, we're talking about the light spectrum. And if you look at if you buy a fluorescent light, they come in big. Well, let me get over here in the camera. They come in big tubes. There's 2 tubes in a package. it will say on the label whether it's a hot spectrum or a cold spectrum light. So to JoAnn's point, what I use right now is I buy a package of each, a hot spectrum and a cold spectrum, and then I put one of each bulb in the fixture because they hold 2 lights. So you can use that, or you can use the daylight spectrum bulbs that JoAnn's using. They both do great results. That's pretty much it. You're going to set them up underneath a light. You're going to keep an eye on them. You want them to dry out a little bit between waterings, and then water them as you need to. And they're going to stay here until they get their first set of true leaves.
Exactly.
When they first sprout, you can see they all come out looking pretty close to the same. You've got just little bitty leaves on top. Those aren't the true leaves of the plant. I forget what those are called, but those are the first leaves. Do you remember what those are
I
called?
don't remember the technical name now, but now the
I
next
don't
set of
either.
leaves will usually look a little different. They'll be
Yeah.
a little bit more defined. Like if it's a tomato plant, you'll have leaves that look like that, and your second set of leaves will look more like a tomato plant.
Right. Right.
But you want to wait till you do get your second set of leaves.
Thank you again for joining us, and thank you, JoAnn, for
Thank
letting us
you.
into your house and letting us see your plant starting set up here. It's great, and keep watching, because we're going to be back with another video here in just probably about a week and a half or so when these things start getting true leaves on them. So thanks for watching, and as always, God bless.